final quarter begins right now.
It's playoff time for the San Diego Padres. Welcome to the final quarter on CBS 8+. I'm Karthik and that is the illustrious, well-spoken, well-written John Howard, who always gets it done. John, how you feeling as the playoffs are about to begin, my friend?
This is the best time of year. I mean, the marathon is finally over. I don't know what it was about this particular season, but it just seemed to take forever for these playoffs to reach us. Can't wait to get things going with the Cubs and Padres.
I feel the exact opposite. I feel like the season flew by, and
Really?
I cannot believe we're already at the postseason. And what a season it has been for the Padres, but we are here. All right, John, earlier this week, we figured Nick Pivetta was going to be the pitcher for Game 1, but manager Mike Shildt revealed today who would be the pitchers for the rest of the series. In Game 2, we'll have Dylan Cease after Nick Pivetta pitches Game 1, and then Game 3, if there is one, would be Yu Darvish on the mound. So, John, noticeably, Michael King not a starter for the NL Wild Card Series. Obviously, the Cubs have had one of the best offenses in the MLB all year long. What are your thoughts on these three guys rolling out and Michael King being available out of the bullpen where he used to be?
Yeah, and Michael King used to do very well out of the bullpen, especially when he was with the Yankees, and I think that's part of the strategy here. Nick Pivetta was kind of a no-brainer for game number 1. And game number 2, Dylan Cease, if he can rip through the order the first time through, get 3 innings, and then maybe a 4th or 5th inning, depending on how he holds up. But at the first signs of trouble, you bring in Michael King. And King, Mike Shildt said, is good for some 70, 75, 80 pitches. He could go another 3 innings, and that easily gets you to the back end of the bullpen, which is the best bullpen in baseball. Yu Darvish pitching game 3 if needed. Perhaps Yu Darvish should have been a little bit earlier in the rotation for this wild card series. I only say that because Yu Darvish has a lot of experience pitching at Wrigley Field. And since these are day games, the conditions at Wrigley Field can be different from day to day. The different directions of the wind, the strength of the wind. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens. But I don't mind the strategy of Michael King coming out of the bullpen. However, I will say, and I'm going to be Mr. Negative Ned here, I'm really questioning how far this Padre team will go in this postseason. We know what their strengths are, the bullpen, and recently hitting well. However, look at the starting rotation. They didn't even really have a 1-2 punch, 2 no-brainers to start. There was a lot of question. We knew Nick Pivetta was going to be game 1. But game 2 and 3, who was it going to be? Is it going to be Michael King? And now that it's not Michael King, okay, we're going to bring him in from the bullpen. It's a big question mark how strong the starting pitching will be for the Padres in this series.
I definitely think that is a big question mark. The starting pitching it felt like a surefire thing, even though they knew they weren't going to have Joe Musgrove going into this season. You felt like they were going to have dudes. And then bringing Nick Pivetta. Pivetta was supposed to be that 3rd or 4th guy, 5th guy maybe in the rotation.
Yeah.
Based off everything they brought him in way after they had already had the other guys, and you figured Michael King was going to be back. Of course, he's dealt with injuries this year. That's been a big part of why we're at this point right now. He's not really been able to get it going between the shoulder nerve injury and then also the left knee inflammation. That's been an issue for him. Dylan Cease has been, I don't know, an enigma all season long, whether he's going to be the good Dylan Cease or not good Dylan Cease. We've seen him pitch well early in games, but then give up a lot of home runs as things go away and the control starts to become an issue. And then you got guys like Yu Darvish, who also dealt with injuries this year, had to come in later in this year for this team. And they've given up home runs. I think if this Padres team, I know this seems so obvious, don't give up home runs, but it's been the 1 or 2 pitches that's kind of cost this team at a lot of times. If they can really work on finding their control in this postseason, I know we're just here, John, right now, and they have to just figure it out now because it is pretty much do or you're done. The Padres pitching has to figure it out, and if their starters can hold up, like you said, if Nick Pivetta can give them a good outing, and then if Dylan Cease can give you 3, maybe 4 innings of good baseball, and Michael King can come in and give you 2, 3 good innings of baseball, and you can turn it over to the best bullpen in baseball, that works beautifully for this Padres team. It really seems like, can their starting pitchers set the tone for them to get things going? Do you feel the same?
I feel exactly the same. And again, the starting pitching is a big question mark. The bullpen was built for the long haul and for these playoffs. And you need a deep bullpen to win in the postseason. The Padres have that. What they don't have is the rock solid 1-2 ace 2 pitchers, the A1, B1. pitchers, and I think that's going to be a problem maybe as early as this wild card series. But once you get to a best-of-7 series, your starting depth has to be all the more tough, and they don't really have that. So that's what has me questioning what's going to happen with the starting rotation.
Thank goodness Nick Pavetta's had the best season of his career. All right, John, let's turn to the bats of the Padres. This team all of a sudden is hitting lights out of the season. Over the last 6 games, John, the statistics really stood out to me. If this counts for any momentum going into the postseason, second most runs scored in the MLB over the last 6 games of the regular season, winning a series against the best team in baseball in the Milwaukee Brewers, and then finishing the series sweep against the Diamondbacks, in which they didn't really even need to win the 2 games or really care about the last 2 games because they already knew they were going to Chicago. But this team really seemed to care about the momentum. And John, the bats were going in all. I should mention they were the second best team when it comes to runs scored. The Chicago Cubs were first. So we got 2 red-hot teams when it comes to the bats and scoring runs going into the postseason. But how do you feel about this team coming in to the end of the regular season? Do you believe the bats will stay hot in the postseason?
I don't know if they'll stay hot. If we go on the history of the regular season, no, they will not. And I don't want to be Mr. Negative Ned or have the dark glasses on, but this is a team since last postseason whose offense will turn off suddenly for extended periods of time. We all remember they got eliminated from the postseason last year when they went 24 straight innings without scoring a run. It's great that in the last week, the last 6 or 7 games, they've been red hot. You want that momentum going into the postseason. But this team has continued to show throughout this regular season that they'll go stretches without scoring runs. Would they go 30 or 31 straight innings of without scoring with runners in scoring position? It's a frustrating thing, and maybe it's part of the reason this season felt long to me. I was waiting to see this Padre team dominate its opposition, and it never seemed to get over that hump of being a great team, a very good team, a playoff team, but I don't know if they have the desire to win championships. The Dodgers all but laid over and died for San Diego to come in and win the National League West. This Padres team didn't do it, and I don't know why. Is it lack of desire? Is it lack of performance when needed most? They missed that opportunity, so will they take the opportunity come this wild card series or the NLDS or the NLCS? We'll see, but they really haven't been that team during this season.
Lack of desire. Those are strong words, John Howard. I don't think I'm going to go that far. I think they have the desire to win. I think the question is, can they? Do they have enough talent? Is what we believe this team to have been after the trade deadline where they made all of those pickups, the team that we really thought they could be, one of the most dangerous by the time October rolled around? Yes, the Dodgers gave them many opportunities, plus more to try and clinch this division for the first time in 2006 for the Padres, and they didn't do it. We looked to the end of August. We looked to the beginning of September, where they played some very mid teams, if I can put it like that, and they didn't get the job done. I remember them losing on the road to the Twins, one of the worst teams in baseball, getting swept at home by the Orioles, one of the worst teams in baseball. That has happened, but we've also seen this team when they are at their best, and the bats do get hot, and they look like the best team in baseball. That was before the trade deadline. That was also sometimes after the trade deadline. To your point, John, they have fallen off both of those times. They have not been able to keep momentum, but maybe, just maybe, John Howard, going into the postseason, this could be a turning of the tides, and maybe they at least catch a hot streak to, if they don't make it to the World Series, to at least make a playoff push. John, let's turn to the pitchers for the Chicago Cubs. Big news earlier this week when Cade Horton was put on the injured list. He fractured his rib from an illness in which he was coughing too much, John. That's how he fractured this rib. You want to talk about a freak accident? It's kind of like how Michael King had his nerve shoulder issues. But he was one of the best pitchers in baseball in the second half of the season. NL Rookie of the Year contender. Many of his games he'd go out 0 to 2 runs allowed. That's as good as it gets. Matthew Boyd will step in. He'll pitch the first game. He was an all-star this year for the Cubs, but some games in the back half of the season, he hadn't pitched well. And honestly, that's been the story for a lot of the Cubs pitchers. John, do you see an opportunity for the Padres to take advantage?
I absolutely see a great opportunity. This would have been the starting pitcher in Game 1, and to not have to face Cade Horton is an absolute blessing, if you will, to the Padres. I mean, the Padres are former monks and named after monks. So, yes, it is a blessing that they don't have to face Cade Horton. And Horton's injury, a broken rib, fractured rib, Maybe 10 years ago, I suffered one of those on Glutamus Maximus, the fake wave machine at Mission Park, at Mission Bay. And I'm telling you, it's a sore thing. You can't breathe deep. If you start laughing, it's just there. So it's understandable that Cade Horton can't make this start. But it's a great opportunity for the Padres to avoid that bullet. And, but again, they've had opportunities this season, haven't taken them. Yes, they do have the talent. Like you said, Karthik, they have a talent to be considered the best team in baseball, and at times they play that way, but they've been missers of opportunity when it comes to things like winning the division. And maybe, let's say, I would rather win in the postseason and win a World Series championship than I would win the National League West. But it sure would have been nice to knock off the evil empire up the I-5 and knock off the Dodgers. This is their best opportunity, probably in more than a decade, to win that division title. They didn't get it done, but they can do much more here in the postseason, which would be a lot of fun for us to see.
Maybe they get that opportunity in the postseason. John, you mentioned about fractured ribs. Jake Cronenworth had one of those earlier this year after he got hit with a ball hit by pitch. So we know one team that's dealt with that already this season, fortunately for the Padres. They will have Jake Cronenworth. They don't have Ramon Laureano, who fractured his finger, and he will be out for the wild card series. So both sides dealing with injuries. All right, let's pull up the graphic on when these games are going to be played between the Padres and the Cubs. We know Game 1 and Game 2 will be taking place Tuesday and Wednesday. The ending of September, the beginning of October. October baseball is here. 12:08, first pitch for games 1 and 2. And Jake Garriani is heading over to Chicago to catch this game and the next game and maybe a Game 3 between the Padres and the Cubs over at Wrigley Field. He was over at San Diego International Airport today before he takes off and gives us his opinion on this series.
We are here at San Diego International Airport getting ready to head out to Chicago O'Hare. For the first time in the history of the San Diego Padres, they have won 90 games in back-to-back seasons. All it gets them a date with the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field in the wild card, a best-of-3 series starting tomorrow. We will be there. Live shots before the game, after the game. Everything you need about the Padres taking on the Cubs in the wild card round. Keep it tuned in to CBS 8. We know Nick Pivetta will pitch Game 1. Dylan Cease Game 2. If it goes to a Game 3, it will be Yu Darvish. Today we heard from the players and the manager. This is what they had to say about this wild card matchup.
Anytime you could enjoy a celebration to get into the postseason, you got to enjoy it to the fullest. You never know if it's going to be your last, but you got to enjoy it to the fullest. And ultimately, we have a goal. We have a core group of guys who are going to be here for a very long time, and we're going to continue to try to, reach our goal, which is to bring a championship to the city of San Diego. So, we have a group of guys that can do it, and now we just got to go out there and do it.
It's a battle-tested club. This hasn't been a straight line, and I think that's going to be the case for any playoff team, right? No one's had an easy road to get to the playoffs, so we're not unique in that. But specific to the Padres, we've had our challenges. We've had our challenges with, our starting pitching. We've clearly, our bullpen's been a strength. We've had our challenges with injuries. We've had a lot of different lineups. We've had a lot of different ways to compete, and we've been able to hold it together and win games and get here. So that battle-tested individual collectiveness that we have is going to serve us well.
Now, everybody wants to talk about momentum going into the postseason. And about 2 weeks ago, we talked to Manny Machado and asked him just that. Does momentum matter going into the playoffs? He said, I really don't know. Well, we'll find out. But the good news is the Padres are taking plenty of momentum into this postseason. They won 7 of their final 8. They swept the Diamondbacks. They are ready to go for this wild card series. We will be out there. We will see what happens. For now, I'm Jake Garriani from San Diego International Airport. Let's go ahead and send it back to you.
All right, Jake, we look forward to hearing from you from Chicago, from Wrigley Field. Interesting about the whole momentum thing. I remember last year, the Padres were really playing the best baseball of the entire league for the final month going into the playoffs. And I had very high hopes for them. And then they hit that 24-inning streak of not being able to score a run. This year, the momentum is a little bit shorter, about a week long. Won 7 of 8 and swept the Diamondbacks. And we'll see. But the key thing is that they are in the tournament. And now we see what unveils. And Karthik, one other reminder. This is a rematch of the 1984 National League Series against the Cubs. And not to date myself, but I was a student at San Diego State, and we lost the first 2 in Chicago. And then game 5 here at the Jack Murphy Stadium, I was getting ready to play in an intramural flag football game at San Diego State. I was a college student at the time. And our team and the opposing team agreed to sit there on the bleachers and postpone our game while we listened to the final inning of the Cubs and Padres. And the Padres won the game. And it was total chaos throughout the city. Everyone was celebrating, honking horns. It was a great, great celebration back in 1984. The big quote was Cub Busters because the movie Ghostbusters was out at the time. And hopefully there's a repeat of that. It's a very exciting time in the postseason. And let's hope the Padres can knock off these Cubbies and advance to the NLDS.
Nobody will forget Game 4 when Steve Garvey hit that epic home run. There will be a tomorrow, and the Padres will keep fighting for tomorrow. Game 1, a very pivotal one in the NL Wildcard Series. Teams that win Game 1 tend to go on and win. We'll see what the Cubs do. All right, let's move on to the NFL, where the Chargers, oofa magoofa, dropped one to the G-Men New York Giants, 21-18. John, how'd they lose that game? They went from the undefeated to losing to one of the worst teams in the NFL and what was probably the biggest upset of the NFL season so far. Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of people got hurt in their survivor pools. I'm sure some of them picked the Chargers to win, even though they were on the road. They were definitely favored to beat the G-Men. They suffered the injury to Joe Alt. But again, the Giants also had a key injury in losing Malik Neighbors. So very interesting game. I think the Giants came in wanting to make a statement, and they got out. The Chargers got outplayed, perhaps outcoached, and the Chargers just weren't up to it in this particular game. What was interesting about watching that game was, even though the Chargers were behind, I kept waiting for them to make the comeback, as many Jim Harbaugh coached teams do. And the Chargers have had a reputation over the last several years, if not 10 to 15 years, of charging and blowing leads, or once they're behind, making a comeback and then throwing a pick and can't get over the top for the go-ahead score. I was absolutely in the second and third quarter anticipating a Charger comeback, and the Giants just kept holding them off. So you gotta tip your hat to the New York Giants. They came in prepared, had a game plan, executed it, and the Chargers had an injury to Joe Alt, but you gotta hand it to the G-men. They came away and got the victory.
I do agree to some of that, but the Chargers' offensive line is just banged up now. They already lost Slater. Then Joe Alt, Mekhi Becton's been banged up. I mean, this team is dealing with a lot of injuries, and that's not an excuse. I mean, Justin Herbert, we were talking about him for maybe MVP candidate after the first few games of the season, and the way that he was able to lead his team back in that Broncos game, which kind of felt like some sort of MVP moment. And then he has a terrible game against the Giants, throwing 2 interceptions, which was really tough for Herbo there. And, the defense, I thought, played pretty well overall. They came up with that huge 4th down stop, that gave them a chance to try and tie it up, but came up empty on their last 2 drives. We'll see what the Chargers are able to do moving forward. But that was a tough loss to the Giants. All right, one team that came out with a tough win against Northern Illinois on the road. Your San Diego Aztecs, John Howard, won 6-3 in an absolute barn burner of a different sort. How did you feel about your Aztecs in that game?
Well, I will never complain about a win, but this was probably the most boring Aztec football game I have ever seen. Each team kicked a field goal on their opening possessions, and then we sat through 3.5 quarters of boredom until the Aztecs kicked a field goal at the very end of the game. I mean, if you didn't miss this game, if you didn't see this game, which a lot of people had difficulty watching it because it was on ESPN+, you did not miss much of anything. It's 3.5 hours of my life I'll never get back, but I am very happy that they got the win. Now, that being said, the Aztecs looked so good against Cal the previous week, and then here, the defense was not as inspired as it was against Cal, and this offense, I really get the feeling the coaching staff doesn't have the confidence in the offense to be throwing the ball. If they throw a pass, it's no more than 4 to 6 yards downfield. They ran the ball a lot in this football game. So did NIU. NIU has a running attack, so the defense didn't have its opportunities to force as many turnovers, come away with some picks like they did against Cal. That all being said, I think the jury is still out on this Aztecs fast offense, which, by the way, I don't think it's as fast as I was anticipating. And perhaps Coach Sean Lewis has made a bit of an adjustment. He's got a great white cap suntan there, by the way, Sean Lewis on the right screen when he takes his hat off. I want to see some fans shave their heads bald and get the tattoo on the back looking like they've got that tan marks from his cap. But Sean Lewis, I wonder if he's made an adjustment and doesn't run it as fast as maybe he did at his previous places where he's coached. And he had said, hey, we're going to run this thing as fast as our personnel allows us. And if you remember last year, the first 4, 5, 6 games, there were so many pre-snap penalties. It was like maybe the offensive line wasn't used or wasn't ready for this fast of an offense. The offense, again, isn't as fast as I thought it would be. But right now, more importantly, it's not as effective as we need it to be. So I've rambled quite a bit here, but 6-3 was quite boring, but I will take the win with boring. A 3-1 record. They matched the number of wins that they had last year. 3 wins last year. We've already got 3 wins this year. And coming up, Colorado State, and Colorado State doesn't look like a very strong team. So a great opportunity here to start 1-0 in the Mountain West. Next, I think it's a Friday night game this weekend.
Yeah, I do want to say that you mentioned they have matched their win total, but I will also mention that they got those 3 wins early last year, and then they ended the season on a 6-game losing streak. So let's make sure the whole season's complete till we talk about this season and they're matching their wins. One caveat, you mentioned the defense wasn't as inspired. I don't particularly agree. They only allowed 3 points in this game, and I would argue the defense was the only good thing in this game for the Aztecs after matching what they did against Cal, only allowing 3 points over the last 2 weeks after absolutely getting blasted by Washington State. I felt like was a good sign that that defense is as good as we believed it might have been in that Stony Brook game in the first part of the season. And Chris Johnson gets another interception. That's back-to-back weeks. He's showing why he's one of the best cornerbacks, not in the Mountain West Conference, not on the West Coast, in the entire nation. This dude is a stud. He's absolutely good at football. I've enjoyed him. I really think that defense is the only reason why we're talking about the Aztecs being 3-1 right now, because they've really made a difference. The offense is as oofa-magoofa as it gets right now, John. You mentioned they run the ball a lot because I think that is the only thing they trust. They believe Lucky Sutton is the best player on that offense, and he has been playing good. Unfortunately for them, they have a quarterback problem. We've been hyped up in the offseason, and, I'm not trying to bag on head coach Sean Lewis right here, but he's talking about how Jaden Denegal is, flying with the Blue Angels. He's good. Like he's got this thing under control. He's got the captain of the ship. I'm not buying all that. When you have to sit your starting quarterback out for multiple series in a row because you're not feeling like you're getting the movement on offense, it makes me feel like Jaden Denegal he's not the answer right now. Yeah. If you have to put Bert Emanuel Jr. in the game for 3 series in a row, what are you telling me? That this offense doesn't have spark. And that's what they have to figure out. Even in that Cal game, they had a couple defensive touchdowns. Otherwise, that score doesn't look the way that it does, beating them as badly as it does. They struggled against Washington State after scoring that first touchdown. They didn't look all that great against Stony Brook. There's an offense problem with this team, John. Yeah, there is. The coaching staff doesn't seem to have the confidence in Denegal. As I mentioned, he's got a fire. He throws the ball on a line. He's got zip on the pass. He can run as well, but his accuracy is not there, and his decision-making also is a little questionable. Many of his throws are to a guy who has a defender draped on him. 1 or 2 other times, I didn't study the film, but I noticed that he telegraphs his passes. He'll lock in on a receiver and throw there, and the DB is just waiting to jump that route. So he's got to make quicker decisions. He needs to go through his progressions. The first receiver, if that receiver looks to be open, gun it and get rid of that ball. And if not, go to choice 2, choice 3. He just needs to make faster decisions. And I guess that will come with time and with reps. But hey, we're entering conference season now. They're 4 games deep into the season. Those things should be developing at this point for your starting quarterback. And yeah, I think there is a question. And Karthik, I don't mind you disagreeing with me about the defense, but last week they pitched a shutout, and this week they gave up 3 points. That's 3 times cubed. 3 cubed times as many points as they gave up last week. John, what's 3 times 0? All right.
There is no math for it.
Gabriel Placencia, I'll give a shout out to him. Perfect on the season.
Yes.
The kicker comes up with the clutch kick, even though it was a short one to end the game. All right, let's move on to San Diego FC because their offense is struggling a little bit too, John.
Yeah.
They have had a hard time scoring goals lately, and it's not for a lack of getting up shots maybe in the last game against Atlanta, but, you know, in this last one against San Jose, they put up 19 shots, come up with 0 goals. Chucky Lozano had a great opportunity early, not able to find the back of the net. San Jose scores an early goal, and then San Diego FC doesn't score for the rest of the game. This team has had opportunity after opportunity. It feels like it was the same in the Minnesota game where they controlled the pace, the shooting for the longest time, and then Minnesota just puts up 3 before San Diego FC is even able to score a game in that game. That one was mind-boggling to me. Atlanta is one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. They tied. They scored an early one in that one, but then conceded a goal after a bad play by CJ Dos Santos. And then this one. Over the last 3 matches, I know we've talked about how great San Diego FC is all year long, but this is a bad time to feel like you're not peaking anymore. The postseason's coming along, and this team did not look too good in that game.
It's exactly like we're talking about the Padres. You want to be playing your best soccer as the playoffs approach. And right now, the SDFC's offense is not playing its best soccer. And it's been a wonderful inaugural season for them. It's been a great inaugural season for the fans and for us as members of the media as we intimately follow an organization that's in its first year. And this is my first year of really following an MLS season. And I thought the baseball season was long. I mean, the SDFC started their season before the Padres did. And SDFC still has another couple of regular season matches to go before their playoffs start, where the Padres are already starting tomorrow. So it is a long MLS season. If we thought baseball was a marathon, this is a marathon plus that these MLS guys have to survive through. But again, you want to be playing your best soccer at this time of the season, and right now SDFC isn't. But again, plenty of opportunity come postseason.
And we'll see. They're still trying to set the MLS record for most wins and most points in an expansion season. Still a couple of games to go in the regular season. We'll see if they figure that out. Another team, John, that's struggling to score, the San Diego Wave. Feels like they're scoring 0 to 1 goals a game. Once again, their offense has looked a lot more creative this year. They're still not finding the back of the net as much. This past weekend, actually last Friday, lose to the Orlando Pride 2 to 1.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing, and we've talked a lot about how this season has been a great turnaround for the San Diego Wave. Last year was just a mess. I think they had more coaching changes than they had average goals scored per game. But this year has been a different story, a lot of success early on and through the midway part of the season. But like you say, they don't seem to be scoring of late, and I don't want to sound like a broken record here, or a broken CD or a broken link to whatever music that you're listening to. But you want to be playing your best sport that you play. And right now the Wave's not doing that, but there is still time. They'll start their postseason after SDFC does, and we'll see what they can do about kicking things and turning things around.
For sure. It just feels like ever since, like right before the long FIFA international break they had, they were just going into this lull where they were, ties, losses, and now they haven't gotten to win. And I believe what is 6 matches, might be 5. You're going to have to fact check me on that one, John. But, it's been a while since they've been able to get things going, and we'll see. They're still kind of hovering in those top 4 spots of the conference. They got some tough matches down the stretch as well, John, and we'll see how it all shapes out for them. Any final thoughts on any of those teams that we just talked about?
No final thoughts, but I'm afraid I'm going to pick the Cubs to win in 3.
I was going to ask for your final thoughts. I was going to go the same way. Cubs in 3 is where I'm leaning, but hey, I can see the Padres very well winning that series. That's not me picking both sides. I know John and Jake love to make so much fun of me on this show that I like to pick both sides. That is not the case.
I was going to say, I'm afraid it's going to be Cubs 2 out of 3, but I'm hoping it's the Padres 2 out of 3.
That would be beautiful. That would be beautiful. All right. Well, you can catch us any single time on CBS 8 Plus, the final quarter. Catch us online at CBS8.com. Catch us on CBS 8 News. Catch us anywhere. Catch us on social media. John Howard, what do you leave the people with?
That's all I got for now. Go Padres, go Aztecs, go SDFC.
Hey, come on. Guardians, AL Central champions, baby. See you later.